welcome back to my Chanel. See what I did there? Today is a really special day because it is my birthday. 24 years ago today I was born, so it is my birthday. Today I just wanted to bring to you a little bit more of a serious video, I suppose. Get really personal and vulnerable and real and talk about 24 lessons I've learned in 24 years. Or in other words, 24 messages that I would give to my younger self. I have here my trusty bullet journal. So here is the list I have of things. 24, whoa, that lighting is bad. And they're in no particular order. I literally just sat down about an hour ago and wrote out all of these lessons that I've learned, and I'm sure there's a billion others. But I think that each and every single one of these has value, not only for me, but also for you. So maybe you could get your own bullet journal out and take some notes from this really valuable content and then reflect on it in your own life. Just a thought. Yeah, I hope it's valuable and I hope you learn something about not only me, but also about yourself. So let's begin. So the first lesson on my list is one that I learned the hard way, and that is that compromise is very different to changing yourself. I think we often think of changing ourselves to fit someone else's agenda or to be accepted or to be liked as a sort of a compromise. We sort of equate the two terms. But I've learned that they're actually incredibly different, but we confuse the two. In the past, I've pretended to like all kinds of things, and I've pretended to be all sorts of people, really. So I've pretended and I've faked it, and I've thought that that was compromising. But no, compromising is totally different. Compromising is when you say to someone, hey, so this activity we're doing, I don't actually like it that much, but I'm willing to do it for you. It's just being really open and clear and communicating exactly what you like and what you don't like and what your feeling is towards something, rather than holding your feelings in and pretending outwardly that you like it or you don't like it. I hope that makes sense. The second lesson that I've learned sort of relates to the first. I've learned that to be accepted, it's far, far more important to be interested than to be interesting. I think a lot of the time we think that because we're not interesting enough, we hide away and we put on a facade and we pretend to be interesting. You know, we'll watch a TV show that our friends like just to have something to talk about. But I can guarantee that people will see directly through that lie. So many times I've talked to people when they say they like something and ask them more questions about it, and pretty soon you can tell that it only goes surface deep. My advice would be not to do things because they please other people, but to do things because they intrinsically please you. Because at the end of the day, you'll be a much better conversationalist if you have a lot of knowledge about a topic. And the only way to have a lot of knowledge about a topic is to be actually interested in it, because let's face it, the average person isn't going to deep dive into Wikipedia articles about solitaire if they're not interested in playing solitaire, are they? Why did I use solitaire as an example? I could have literally picked anything else. The third lesson I've learned is that there is always value to committing to something long term. I've often heard people in their 50s say something like this. Oh yeah, see that house right there? That was only $50,000 20 years ago and I was gonna buy it. I really should have. You see, it really doesn't matter what you do. You can be a garbage man or you can be a lawyer. And sticking to that career or profession or hobby or whatever it is that you are embracing and sticking to will pay off in the long run. Because if you've been a garbage man for 50 years, you'll know everything about the trade and you'll be the best garbage man there is. And if you've been a lawyer for 50 years, same thing applies. I learned this lesson the hard way because I decided to make the really silly decision of studying something that I didn't like for 5 years. And as difficult as that degree was, in hindsight, now that I'm on the other end, I'm grateful that I did it. I learned so much about myself, what I like, what I don't like, what I'm good at. I developed a lot of skills that are transferable to other workplaces and other contexts, which is really valuable. And often it's tempting to think, oh, I just spent 5 years studying something that I'm never going to be interested in, or oh, I just got out of a 6-year relationship. And often we think of these things as a waste of time, but in reality, they're far from that. And of course, be aware of the sunken cost fallacy and things like that. You know, sometimes you do have to let things go, but the majority of the time, if you stick to something, particularly if you like it, then you will succeed in the long run. The fourth lesson that I've learned is that vulnerability is power. Brené Brown's TED Talk on the power of vulnerability, which is aptly named, I think, was a really big turning point in my life. And I remember watching it and just thinking how counterintuitive it was to actually open yourself up in order to attract the people that are actually worthwhile and valuable. And so this channel is about me trying to be as vulnerable as I can with you guys. Like, it's hard. You're a camera right now. That's okay. So yeah, sharing who you truly are is the only way to foster genuine connection. Yes, it requires being hurt sometimes, but you will never going to experience the same level of love and acceptance and belonging that you do when you're vulnerable than if you're not. The fifth lesson that I've learned is that I don't need so many damn clothes. I have so many clothes. Where do they come from? I mean, this is part of a much broader issue, I think, especially in Western society where we can just swipe or tap a card and then have literally anything we want on Afterpay. Yeah, that's dangerous. We think that a new thing is superior to an old thing, and that's fine, and that's great actually, because new things often are superior. But there is beauty and there is something amazing about being able to recycle something, to sew up your clothes, to repaint an old piece of furniture, to like give something new life. I think is actually so much more satisfying. And actually, when I was 12, I had this little business after school where I would walk up and down the road and find old furniture. So this was when there were like council cleanups and everyone's dumping all their old furniture like on the curb. And I would get my mum to like drive up the road with me, or my dad, and we'd pick up all the old furniture and then I'd paint it all and I'd sell it on eBay. And it would actually get me quite a lot of money because it was like shabby chic furniture. I kind of styled it nicely, took nice photos of it. See, if I'd just taken advice number 3, I would have been somewhere by now. But no, I decided to prioritize study instead and do a law degree. The things you learn. And this brings me to lesson number 6, which is that academics aren't everything, okay? If I could go back to high school and tell my 16-year-old self a lesson, I would tell her to not stress so much and to just take a breather, go read a book, laze in the sunshine, eat some chocolate, don't do your homework. Who cares? Nobody cares. You're flipping 16, for goodness sakes. I actually don't remember anything from high school, oh my goodness. You know, I remember being in high school and telling myself, I'm never gonna forget any of this math so that when my kids are in high school, I'll be able to help them. Oh my goodness, ridiculous. I've learned that it's important to be a good cook and to enjoy it. Because the reality is you're gonna be making more than 1,000 meals a year one day. Eating is just something that we do constantly. Yeah, just knowing that I'm gonna be cooking so much in the future has taught me that I need to learn how to do it well and to enjoy it. Whether that means becoming a gourmet chef or whether that means learning different tips and tricks to like shorten my time in the kitchen. I don't know what that's gonna look like. I'm not married yet, I don't have kids yet. Mostly mum cooks my meals. But yeah, I think that's an important lesson. Tip number, I don't know how many, is that you can do everything, but you can't do it all at once. I am so impatient. You guys, I don't even know how to describe to you how impatient of a person that I am. I am currently working full-time, 38 hours a week, which is fantastic, and I love the fact that I have a full-time job and get to work with amazing people. But I then spend a solid 6 hours after work most days working on my little side hustle, on my YouTube, on my business, on my art, and that's great. But I'm trying to have everything all at once and ultimately things fall off the table, like relationships with friends, like sleep. And this has dawned on me recently, and look, the more you try and cram on your plate, the more dissatisfied you feel because you're trying to grasp at everything and have everything all at once. I think it's actually a much better thing to just set boundaries and be grateful for what you do have and realize that actually, maybe now isn't the season for a YouTube channel. Maybe now isn't the season for an online business. Maybe now is the season to be investing in your relationships. Maybe now is the season to be learning how to cook. You know what I mean? So just like being realistic about how much you can get done in a day and setting boundaries and setting time for just to breathe, just to be yourself and to have some free time to watch Netflix. Tip number, I think 8, is that your life's purpose and calling isn't going to all just come at once like an epiphany. It's probably going to continually tap you on the shoulder Does that look like it's coming from someone else? Hello. Your life's calling probably isn't going to come all at once in some grand epiphany, some road to Damascus experience where the angel appears to you and tells you what you're supposed to do with your life. It's probably going to come in little dribbles here and there, in little sparks of interest here and there, and through conversations that you have sporadically throughout your life, throughout your weeks. That's how it's been for me. Don't expect it all to come at once and like in a big prayer just be answered, because it doesn't work like that. And the reality is there's not as many lessons learned that way, and I think if God told us exactly what we were supposed to do, we'd probably either be really dissatisfied or we wouldn't grow nearly as much as what we do when we discover it organically for ourselves. My next tip is that habits are everything, and that I need to try and keep my habits a little bit more in check. In the times in my life when I've been most successful, it hasn't been when I, won an award or had the best opportunity. It's been when I've been able to flip and stick to my habits. And this sort of relates back to what I was saying about having everything at once. I find that habits, when set correctly and realistically, are some of the most powerful tools that you can implement in your day and in your life to be successful. Tip number, I hope 10, is that waking up early before 5 a.m. is the most life-changing thing. Now, I'm talking to my younger self here. I'm not necessarily talking to you. Maybe you're a nighttime person, but for me, naturally, after 10 p.m, I am an absolute wreck and good for nothing. So I like to go to bed around then and wake up early. It's like free time, you guys. It's free time because it gives me a couple of hours before the world wakes up, before people start calling me and start texting me and emailing me and people start requiring things of me during the day. And it's just time for me. And I used to think it was impossible to wake up consistently at 5 a.m, but for the month of May, so the whole month leading up to my birthday, I've been waking up at 5 a.m. nearly every single day, and I will be making a video about that pretty soon. It's just so life-changing. This just really helps to ground me and just function like an actual adult. Yeah. Because now that we're 24, we need to function like an actual adult. My next tip is sort of breaking the fourth wall, and it's a very practical take-home message for you on the other side of the screen right now. Don't click away from this video though, please. And that is less watching, more doing. The amount of time I spent as a child in particular watching YouTube videos and dreaming of being Nigahiga and then not doing it was ridiculous. I've probably wasted a solid year of my life just watching things that I don't end up actually doing. Harken back to step number 3, which was about the value of actually committing and finishing stuff. So go and do it. My next tip is that a positive attitude will go a really, 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 really long way. We complain more than probably any generation that's ever lived on the face of the earth, just because we have so much stuff. And I think being grateful, this is kind of an all-in-one concept, being grateful and being positive is so important. And at the end of the day, that is a choice. And this is my next lesson. So the next lesson I've learned is that there are 3 main choices that you can make when it comes to your emotional state. And that is choosing love, choosing positivity, and choosing gratitude. And these are all very interlinked concepts, but they are all different. We use the word love as such a throw around word. Like, I love pizza, I love going outside, I love it when coronavirus isn't a thing. I love watching Maryellen's videos. But that's not the same kind of a word as what we use to describe our significant other or our mum or maybe our pets even. But the thing is, love isn't just an emotion or a feeling, it's also a choice. And that's the same with positivity and gratitude. Positivity is both a choice and a feeling, and gratitude is both a choice and a feeling. And so in order to experience love, and in order to have a close relationship where that is possible, you have to choose it in the first place. And you have to be like, okay, you know what, despite my emotions, I'm just gonna choose to be loving or grateful or positive today, so that in the long run, those investments pay off and I'm able to see the love and the gratitude and the positivity in my life so much more easily. My next lesson is that people actually don't care. People don't care at all. Yeah, okay, there's gonna be those people in your life that care, like your best friends and your family. That's different. I mean, the generic population do not care if you have makeup on or not, if you're wearing mismatching socks, if you've just gone to the bathroom and have toilet paper on your shoe. We're just so insecure about so many little trivial unimportant things, and it actually holds us back from doing so much in our lives. In fact, when I was in high school, I had insomnia, so I wouldn't be able to fall asleep until about 5 a.m. most school nights, simply because I was so afraid that people would judge me for my dark circles under my eyes, which is so crazy thinking about it now. I'm like, dark circles, that's nothing. But I was so afraid of being judged and so desperate to fit in that yeah, I would be up all night worrying about people judging me for my appearance, for what God had created me with, which is crazy. And I think maybe in a less severe way, adults do that too. My next lesson, and this is one I learned really recently. I thought I understood the whole vulnerability thing by Brené Brown, that you have to sort of allow yourself to be seen and allow people in order to have genuine connections, but it's so much deeper than that. And that is that you have to actually let people hate you. And it is a bit extreme, but the thing is, yeah, you can be vulnerable, but you can still put on a mask in that vulnerability. And to be honest, I guess YouTube is probably a bit of that. Like, I'm still, you know, editing this video and trying to say the right thing and trying to help you and, like, you know, be someone who is a positive person on camera. But the reality is, behind the camera, I don't always have the best words to say, and I'm not always that inspired, and a lot of the time I just sit there without much thought in my head. Like, I'm actually quite a boring person sometimes. And I used to be so afraid of that when I was younger, being a boring person. And so I would, you know, conjure up all these interesting stories and just try and put as much energy out there as I could in order to be liked. But in doing that, I found that my relationships weren't that genuine. And so yeah, it's much more than just being vulnerable. It's actually allowing people to hate you, which is fun. But yeah, in allowing people to hate you, two things happen. First of all, it's a natural filter for the people that are actually genuinely worth investing time in. Because let's face it, if someone is willing to love you despite your imperfections, then they're probably someone you want to keep around. But if you never let them see those perfections, they're probably not someone you want to keep around. And the other thing is that when you actually come face to face with someone who doesn't like you for whatever reason, it's actually a really empowering thing. Not that I'm, you know, advocating having enemies or anything like that. I just mean sort of like a mutual distancing from one another, not like an active hate. But yeah, when there's that mutual distance between someone maybe you were friends with, or maybe you don't really want to be friends with, you realize that actually as a person, you're incompatible with some people, and it gives you that power to actually curate your friendship circles. Now, I'm a strong believer in loving everyone, like agape love, you know, accepting everyone, but this is a bit different. It's about who you let into that very inner circle. My next lesson is that people are actually usually a lot kinder than you expect. And I think we sometimes use double standards when it comes to ourselves and to others. For instance, I am more than happy to lend someone $100 if they ask for it and they really need it. But if I'm in need and I really need $100, I just simply assume that the person on the other end who I'm asking for the $100 is not going to want to give it to me, and they're going to be really annoyed that I asked them, and they're going to be like judgmental or something. But 99% of the time, people are equally as kind and as generous as you are, assuming you're a generous and kind person, which I'm sure you are. Yeah, I think the sooner that you can accept people's kindness and generosity and accept that it's a reciprocal thing, yeah, the healthier your relationships will be. My next lesson is one that I am always learning every single day, and that is to stop eating so much junk food, because it will make you feel terrible, and then you'll feel guilty, and then you will feel sick, and it will be terrible for your skin, and you'll just get in this really negative cycle where you have to eat your feelings away, but then your feelings are developed by the fact that you're unhealthy, and so yeah, it just continues like this. If you haven't seen one of my recent videos where I tried to go sugar-free for 30 days, you won't understand the extent of my sugar addiction. So I encourage you to go watch that. The link is below. Shameless plug, I know. I don't know what the fix is, but if you guys have any healthy eating tips or tips on self-control, let me know in the comments below, because I will love you for it. The next lesson I've learned is one that I also grapple with on a regular basis, but I'd say over the last 4 or 5 years, as my social anxiety, which I used to have, yeah, as I've come to terms with that and worked on that and become much less socially anxious, I've learned to be okay with the silence. And this is a really important lesson, I think, for anyone to learn when it comes to small talk and when it comes to conversation in general, to just be okay with the awkward silence and be okay to excuse yourself from a conversation if it's not going well. I think a lot of the time we are so afraid of the silence and of not being interesting or like running out of things to say that we will just fill the space up with pointless, empty stuff. And that actually really inhibits our ability to listen properly. And I guess that's actually what this tip is about, is listening. Listening is one of the most powerful skills and most important skills that you will ever learn. And I'm still learning that daily. I like to think I'm a good listener, but I think the more I think about it, because I'm an introvert, so I'm naturally a quieter person, a bit more reserved, and I will quite happily sit there and not talk. But just because you're not talking doesn't make you a good listener. Being a good listener is asking the right questions and actually caring and trying to put yourself in that other person's shoes, trying to empathize, and really getting to the root of the issue or whatever the person is talking about. Or even ask your friends if you're a good listener and get some constructive criticism and feedback from them, because I think it doesn't matter what scenario you're in, whether it's professional or personal or otherwise, you're gonna need some listening skills. My next lesson is that your worth is not measured by human standards. It's measured by God's standards. And this is something that I'm still learning every single day, but as I've embraced that concept and realized that, hey, actually I am beautiful, and actually I do have intrinsic worth, and actually I am a child of God, and actually I do have skills and talents that He's blessed me with, that has really changed who I am, and it's made me more joyful and more positive and made me more grateful. And so yeah, just dwelling on my worth in Christ rather than my worth to the world and, you know, my Instagram feed and the amount of friends I have, and trying to quantify every single thing in my life and compare it to other people. The less I do that, the happier I am. So yeah, worth in God alone. The next lesson I've learned has happened quite recently, probably only in the last year or so, as I've transitioned into full-time work and sort of more of an adulting sort of a lifestyle. It's that you're going to have less and less friends as you get older, but the friends that you do have are going to mean so much more to you. So, Maryellen, if you find yourself in a situation where you feel lonely, try and remember the close friends that you do have that you can be grateful for. Because the reality is, as life gets more crazy, as you have kids one day, you're probably not going to have that many friends, and that's okay. So to my friends out there who lovingly watch my videos, I love you all very much, and you know who you are. I'm not going to name you all by name, but yes, you've made me into the person I am, and I thank you for that. The next lesson I've learned is that being an introvert is actually something that you are going to grow to love, Maryellen. So when I was younger, in high school in particular, I was really insecure about the fact that I was quiet and reserved and an introvert, and like all of the people that were bubbly and crazy got all the attention, and I was always really jealous of them, to be honest. But as I've gotten older and life has sort of just, you know, taken its beautiful course, I have learned to be so grateful for my introversion? Yes, because it really allows me to be introspective and to glean more meaning from everyday scenarios, I suppose. Got a couple more, only 2 more. So my next lesson is that journaling is so important. It really allows you to embrace that introverted part of you, and it's something that not only structures your life, but also gives meaning to your life. So carving out half an hour a day just to sit and journal and read over your thoughts and add more thoughts is something that has become very meaningful to me. And I think it will become very meaningful to you as well. And it will teach you a lot about yourself. And my final lesson, and this one is the most important of all, is that God's grace is so much bigger and so much more abundant, and His love is so much stronger than anything I can ever imagine. And I learnt this reading a book by Max Lucado called Grace, and I will link it below because it's so fantastic and it really changed my view of God. But knowing that nothing I can do can ever make Him love me any more or any less, and that He is just waiting to spend time with me, and He loves me, and His heart breaks when my heart breaks, and He comes to meet me where I'm at. He doesn't expect me to be anything or achieve anything or do anything to be worthy of Him. He sent His Son to die for me so that I could access Him at any time and ask Him just to forgive my sins and to just you know, take over my wretched human failure of a person that I am sometimes. My favorite verse in scripture is 2 Corinthians 12:9, where it says, I will learn to boast more gladly about all of my weaknesses, because it is in my weakness that his strength is made known. And so knowing that I am weak, but it's okay because I have salvation and I have eternal life and I have meaning and purpose because of that, is something that is so transformational and allows me to really see how much I've been blessed. So anyway, guys, they are my 24 lessons that I've learned in 24 years. I know it was quite deep, and I really hope you got something from it. Let me know in the comments below what lessons you've learned over the last however many years you've been alive. If you liked this video, let me know as well. Please give it a big thumbs up. It really means a lot to me if you do that. And also subscribe to my channel for more life lessons, soul-to-soul chats, for more lifestyle videos, and also art and creativity videos as well. I really, really appreciate you all, and thank you so much for tuning into my channel and for supporting me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.